Welcome back to another video as part of our Carl video series. I'm Rob from Ahead Simulations, but today you can see Carl is on camera. And this is so that we can conduct a masked only audiogram for the Carl Pro unit. So in other videos we went through unmasked and complete audiogram and walked through some other functionality of the software and to know about Carl. In this one we're really going to hone in on the skill of masking. So to orient yourself to the screen initially, what you see right now is the default landing page that you will get to when you first load up the Carl Pro. We're currently in the audiograms functionality of the interface, and on the left you'll see this is the whole list of audiograms that we currently have inside of your Carl Pro. Yours may look a little bit different based on what audiograms you may have included in it already. So this list includes both the preloaded audiograms and the standardized audiograms that come with Carl, as well as any of the other audiograms that you may have created while using it. So we're looking to test Carl's hearing in a masking only audiogram today. And we're going to identify that by looking at the icons to the left of the audiogram name and description. So as a refresher, the colored icons indicate what kind of audiogram it is. We can see flat 70 is an example of an unmasked only audiogram. This is shown by the unmasked icons, the X and the O, being the only ones that are colored. You can see the complete audiogram where you have to do both unmasked thresholds and then determine which frequencies require masking and apply the masking to find the masked thresholds as well. That will take a little bit longer, but today we're purely going to focus on a masked threshold only condition in audiogram for Carl. So I'm going to click on this flat masking case 1 to test Carl's hearing. When I click that, you'll see the Carl, his shoulders lit up blue. This is again the indication to say that he has accepted the audiogram and he is ready to have his hearing tests. You'll also see at the bottom right of the screen, it now says Carl Pro is listening, which is another indication that we are ready to go. So looking at the screen, it looks a little bit different than the other modes. It will actually give you the unmasked thresholds on both the left and the right ear ahead of time. So this mode is really focused on honing in on the skill of masking, and we don't want you to have to spend a whole bunch of time finding the unmasked thresholds, as presumably you already know how to do that if you're jumping into masking, and we want to really fine-tune and test your training and your understanding of masking so we can find it correctly on Carl. So we can see right away that the right and the left unmasked thresholds, there's quite a difference between the two of them. So our first step is determine which frequency here requires masking. Now in my region, I'm going to use the general ballpark of 40 dBHL specifically for my circumoral transducer that is currently on Carl as the determinant to see, do I need to mask at this threshold? So looking at all of these unmasked icons, I can see that at every single frequency there is at least a 40 dBHL difference, which means I'm going to have to mask at every frequencies to determine if these found ones are in fact true or if we need to mask and find the mask threshold. So I'm going to start at 250 dBHL just because those ones are a little bit closer together. So as a first step, I'm going to reestablish the 80 dBHL response at 250 Hertz with the left ear without any masking whatsoever. So I'm going over there to my audiometer. When I play the tone, you'll see Carl is responding, so that unmasked threshold that was given to me in advance, that is correct. So now, applying masking, I'm going to start my masking level at the same threshold as the good ear, so the right ear, which means my masking level is going to start at 30 dBHL. When I click Start Masking, I'm going to represent the tone at 80 dBHL on the left ear, And you can see no response from Carl. So that's good. That means that that unmasked icon was not a true threshold. I'm going to bump it up to 85. Oh, and you see Carl responds at 85 at 250. Now, is that the true threshold? I'm going to bracket up my masking level by 5 dB to see if he still responds. So that's no response from Carl at 85 dBHL when I raise my masking level. So now I raise my tone level. There we go. We're getting another reliable response at 90 dBHL. I'm going to turn up my masking again by 5 dB. And no response again for Carl. So we're bracketing up. Oh, there was a response. So I'm going to increase the threshold again to 95. There's a response from Carl. I'm going to turn up the masking level. No response from Carl. I'm going to turn up the threshold number. I'm at 100 dBHL right now. I'm going to put up the masking by 5 dB. He's responding still. I'm going to put the masking level up by 5 dB. Still responding. Masking level up. Still responding. And this is my very last one. So he still responded. I reached my 20 dB plateau. And you can see that Carl bracketed up along with us along the way. So now in the left ear, I found 100 dBHL at 250. When I fill that in, you can see you still have a record of all the unmasked thresholds, but now it changed the icon on the screen to the masked icon at the frequency that you found. Now, the idea here especially is that we can focus on which frequencies need to be masked, and then at the very end we can see again how close we were to the real result. So I'm going to click Finish. And you'll see right here a few things to walk through. The faded line at the bottom, this is the true hearing loss that was given to Carl. So this was a very flat case, as you could probably tell by the title of it. And it was 100 dBHL the whole way across. Now you can see, because I didn't mask at all these other frequencies and I didn't put in a new threshold, you can see I was off at all these frequencies, whereas at the 250 I had the correct tone. You'll also notice over at 6,000, based on the intraoral attenuation of Carl, you didn't need to mask to find that proper threshold, which means the actual was an unmasked icon as opposed to the masked icon at the other frequencies. Now what this shaded region is it's showing the intraoral attenuation of Carl. This is coded into Carl to be a patient-specific case. So even though we use the target, at least in our training standards, of 40 dB difference for circumoral headphones, you can see the intraoral attenuation actually does vary per frequency, and it's a lot more than that. That's because that 40 dB number is actually just a conservative estimate or a conservative number to use to make sure that you're masking wherever needed. So you can see the intraoral attenuation at 250 hertz is much less than when you go up in frequencies. So from this chart, we can see both how Carl responded, how his intraoral attenuation affected the answers, and how close our final answers were to the true thresholds that we had uploaded into Carl. Now there's a prompt at the bottom for select the other list to try another audiogram, so absolutely trying another complete audiogram or another masked icon or another masked test is definitely a good way to get familiar with this mode. You'll see Carl does respond effectively throughout masking, and he takes it into account with his intraoral attenuation. Be sure to check out the other videos that we have walking through the other functionalities, and if there's any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to a member of our team.